So Liverpool take a slender lead into the second leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final against Fulham after a 2-1 win here at Anfield tonight. And for long periods of this game, it didn't look like Liverpool would be taking a win at all into that second leg at Craven Cottage. Fulham once again putting on an impressive Anfield performance and a really dangerous one, and they led for quite long periods of this game as well through that Willian goal. And it's an interesting one really, because we saw when Fulham last visited here, they got beat 4-3 of course, and we saw how good a side they are, how disciplined they are in defence, the fact that they press high, the fact that they're physical, and they've got real pace and quality on the break. And it really seemed to, despite the fact that Liverpool had a reminder of that quite recently, it kind of seemed to take them by surprise in the first half. And yes, you'll look at the XG totals and see that Liverpool were definitely massively dominant in this game. They had most of the possession, most of the chances, particularly in that first half. Even though they fall behind, you see Liverpool have had a lot of shots, but I thought Fulham seemed to manage that quite well in terms of making sure that Liverpool weren't creating massive chances. And then when they themselves broke, they always looked massively dangerous. So it was really reminiscent of when Fulham, got that 4-3 defeat here. Is that, that game they came away probably thinking, how have we ended up losing this game? And I thought, it looked like we were in for a similar repeat where maybe Fulham would actually get the result this time around, because they were impressive in that first half in terms of just managing Liverpool's threat. And when they got the opportunity to break, they have that pace and quality to really make it count. And then they get the goal and they get 1-0 in front, and that gives them something to defend. So, Liverpool, it looked like it was going to be massively difficult for them. They did seem surprised by the press and that physicality that Fulham were showing, despite having been reminded of it so recently. So, there was a lot for Jurgen Klopp to think about at half-time. But once again, as we've seen so many times this season, he changes things, tweaks things slightly at half-time, and then if things aren't working and Liverpool aren't on top, he looks to his bench to change things, and that is absolutely what happened here. I think he gets his changes absolutely right, because I think in that first half at times, as well as Fulham were playing, Liverpool looked a little bit like a side short on attacking quality a little bit, and they looked like a side that find missing players. I think they've got so many players absent, having the AFCON, Asia Cup, and a lot of injuries of course, and I think this is the first time really where you've sort of seen signs that was starting to tell. But Jurgen Klopp had left a little bit in reserve on the bench, and two players in particular I'll go on to talk about come on and massively change the game, and that wins it again. So Jurgen Klopp is really making a name for himself this season as the master of changing games in the second half, and he needed to do that here because Liverpool were 1-0 down and looking like they were going to go into that second leg at Craven Cottage, needing to do an awful lot against a very impressive Fulham side, but completely turn things around. I mean, I say that now, of course, they've still got an awful lot of work to do. 2-1 is a slender lead, and we've seen Fulham will, of course, I imagine, play better at Craven Cottage. They've already beaten Arsenal there very recently as well, so it's not going to be an easy game by any means. But I think Liverpool to come away with an aggregate advantage, that was the job today. It wasn't maybe about winning 3 or 4-0. You just need to get your noses in front, give yourself something to defend at Craven Cottage. Liverpool have the opportunity then to hit on the counter, and with the quality and the speed that they've got, that should make the job a lot easier. So in the end, a good win, and as I say, still a lot to do in the second leg, but Jurgen Klopp will be absolutely happy that his side have turned things around in the second half here. So I'll go through the performances, individuals, as I usually do, and starting goal with Kevin Kelleher. Of course, he comes in, this is his competition, he's in ahead of Alisson, and didn't have an awful lot to do really. Liverpool defended kind of well, even when Fulham showed threat. I think they managed the dangerousness of the shots that were put in. The goal that Willian scores at the Kop end just behind me, I don't think you could put anything on the keeper there. It's very close range. There's defenders falling everywhere, and I think he might even get a little nick on its way in, so not really one that you want to lay at the door of the goalkeeper. And in terms of other saves, not an awful lot to do, as I said, because Liverpool did well to block shots when Fulham were looking dangerous. He makes one save in the second half that's low down to his right from De Cordova-Reid, which I thought was a good stop. It's a good low shot that seems to be going to the far corner, so he does well to scrape that out. And then in terms of his remaining influence he has on the game, I think his quality really with the ball at his feet was massive, because Fulham were trying to push on and trying to press and make it difficult. So having a goalkeeper who's as comfortable as Kelleher in possession there was really handy for Liverpool in terms of helping them play out, and I think that's something they did a little bit more in the second half. So we know how good Kelleher is with his feet, and he did get to show that again tonight. Now, I'm moving to the defence now, and another academy product coming into the team at right back, taking the place of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Conor Bradley, and wow, I've got a lot of praise to the kid after that performance today. I thought he was massively impressive. I mean, to come into a semi-final, huge expectation on him to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's not had a lot of notice that would be happening. Trent would have 100% started this game had he not picked up that injury against Arsenal. I thought he was just hugely impressive in everything he did. He didn't look overawed by the occasion. He played football when he needed to. He was lovely little exchanges down the right hand side a lot of the time, and then his defensive work was really good. I mean, I've got some statistics written down from him here. 88 passing accuracy percentage, which I think that's pretty good for someone who was actually trying quite a lot. He was one of Liverpool's more creative players in terms of trying to force things, trying to make things difficult for Fulham. 2 chances created, 6 out of 6 tackles won, 6 recoveries, and 9 out of 19 ground duels won. So the 19 ground duels, in fact, shows you just how involved he was. I think Fulham were trying to target him down that right hand side and didn't really manage to do it because he was so steady in his defending. Some really good blocks and moments where he gets in, and as I say, 6 out of 6 tackles won against a side like Fulham who can be so dangerous around the wings. I just thought, a phenomenal performance from Conor Bradley, and a big part of why Liverpool end up coming away with the win here. He really has stepped up massively, and what an exciting prospect he is. Looking forward to seeing more of him because Liverpool are going to need him in this period with Trent Alexander-Arnold out for maybe 3 weeks or so, we believe. So I continue in the defence now, and Ibrahima Konate next. Had a really busy night. He tends to really, teams tend to drag away from Virgil van Dijk, don't they, and always focus on the partner, and today it was Konate, so he had a lot of work to do. 2 out of 2 aerials, 7 recoveries, 3 clearances, did a little bit of everything really tonight, and I thought his passing was kind of good out of defence as well. He was a bit reluctant to use Bradley at times. Maybe that trust needs to build up, and there were moments where Bradley was in positions where Konate would have been better served in using him than picking out other passes, but I still thought a really good performance from Konate in a game that he was very busy, and he was a big part of why Fulham, yes, they have dangerous possession, but he's there to get the blocks in, he's getting in the way and sort of snuffing out that danger, so did a really good job of that tonight, I thought, and a good performance from him. His partner Virgil van Dijk, as I say, not quite as busy as Konate as you'd expect. Teams tend to stay away from him if he can, but incredibly he makes a mistake that leads to a goal. Now that doesn't happen very often, but the ball's bouncing up and he takes the header, and that allows Andres Pereira to collect the ball and take it into the box to set up Willian for the finish. And all you can say about that really is Van Dijk doesn't make many of those mistakes, and maybe sometimes you just got to let him have one. It's unfortunate it happens in a semi-final, and today obviously if he doesn't make that mistake it'd be a 2-0 advantage for Liverpool rather than 2-1, but we can't be too critical of him. He's absolutely ridiculous, isn't he? I think, maybe it showed actually the error he makes, that maybe he's not quite over that illness, so it's took a little bit out of him, because I actually thought he wins 3 out of 4 aerial duels, but a lot of the aerial wins he's heading the ball straight up instead of powerfully away like we used to. I thought Jimenez gave him more trouble in that regard than I've seen a lot of strikers do really. So not Virgil van Dijk's best performance, but as I say, he's coming off illness. He's usually absolutely flawless. He's been incredible this season, so really can't hold it against him too much, and he gets a chance now to have a little break, doesn't he, before he comes back, and I'm sure he'll be absolutely back to his best after that. I'll finish up the defence now with Joe Gomez, and I think he's playing really well down that left hand side, isn't he, and another good game for me today. I thought a bit of a mix of everything that he did. 2 out of 3 aerial duels won, 3 out of 5 ground duels won. Thought one of we did see a little bit of a weakness in terms of using him at left back when he gets down that left hand side. A couple of really shanked left footed crosses, but he's never going to have that in his game. He's never going to become left footed, so you've just got to accept that at times. In games at Anfield where you dominate in possession, that weakness is going to come to the fore, but it's not too long that he has to do that job now. We know Robertson's not too far off, same with Kostas Tsimikas, and I still think he's doing such a good job defensively. You can't criticise Joe Gomez, and he locked down his side again. Thought he did really well again. So I'm moving to the midfield now, starting the holding role with Alexis McAllister. I thought another really steady performance from him. He's kind of subtle in the way he goes about his work, but he was quietly quite impressive, I thought, today. 5 out of 10 duels won, 2 out of 4 aerial duels won. Obviously you want them to win more than they lose, and to be half and half on that is, it's sort of middle of the road, but that's not a bad percentage when you're involved in as many moments as he is, and he slowed Fulham down when he tried to counter. I thought he did a good job of that, and 11 passes into the final third, which is exactly why you want him in that holding role. He gets Liverpool on the front foot constantly, so I thought a pretty steady performance from McAllister, even if he wasn't absolutely world class today. He's a vital cog really in that midfield in terms of getting Liverpool, getting the ball, getting it up the pitch really quickly, and I think he did quite a lot of that today, which was the most important thing, particularly in that second half when Liverpool looked a lot more dangerous. Now alongside him in midfield, Curtis Jones, obviously he gets a goal, quite lucky really with a huge deflection, but I thought it sort of typified his performance really, in that even in the first half when Liverpool was struggling a bit, he looked the likeliest to make something happen. He was always trying to force it. with his dribbling skills. I thought we saw a lot more of that today. And you know, he's trying to make things happen, and despite that fact, actually ends the game with a 98% passing accuracy, which is incredible for a player who was constantly trying things. But to get the goal is obviously massive for him, and I think one of the reasons for the weakness in the first half in Liverpool in terms of cutting out those Fulham counters, he actually ends the game with 4 out of 15 ground duels won, which is quite poor for Jones. He's usually very good at that, so you can maybe attribute some of that weakness that Liverpool showed in the first half, and the ability that Fulham had to play out and play through to counter. Maybe Jones is a little bit to blame for that, but as I say, gets a goal, and I thought second half massively improved, and as I say, the dribbling was a big part of his performance in terms of he was trying to make things happen. So, and in the end he did make something happen. He gets his goal, and Liverpool really built from that and dominate the game from that point onwards. So don't want to be too critical there. Now, in terms of being critical, I maybe have to be about Jones's fellow number 8 in that midfield, Ryan Gravenberch. I thought a poor performance from him, all told. He really did struggle. He was loose with his passing. I mean, he starts the game at the moment where he beats someone with a dribble, and then his pass is poor and is easily intercepted. And I think, you know, that kind of sums him up at the moment. Is one good thing followed by maybe a poor moment, and he's so hit and miss. I mean, he comes out for the second half and beats a man again, gets a shot off that goes narrowly wide, but he just didn't do enough in his time on the pitch, and he was rightly substituted. I mean, 2 out of 10 ground duels won. That shows that he was struggling there. 0 out of 2 aerial duels won. You can't control things in midfield when your numbers are like that, particularly when Jones was struggling on that front when he doesn't usually. So Gravenberch, you know, it's 1 step forward, 2 back maybe sometimes. I thought he was really impressive coming off the bench against Arsenal, but you can see in moments the quality he's got, and you can see why the manager really likes him and wanted to bring him in. The job is now, of course, to get that quality out of him more regularly, but it's his first season. He's still very young. We've seen so many players come in under Jurgen Klopp, take a while to get going, and then eventually become superstars. So not ready to write Gravenberch off by any means, but absolutely not his game today. I thought he really struggled. Now, moving to the front line now and talk about Luis Diaz. Again, not massively influential on the attacking side of things. I think he had 1 shot and 0 chances created today. But again, he improves in the second half. I think when Liverpool had a bit more attacking impetus and they bring 2 subs on, they completely, you know, they give more attacking threat, and that allowed Diaz more space to influence things. He doesn't end with great numbers, but interestingly, he ends with a 95% passing accuracy, which I think kind of shows that maybe he was the man who was expected to be a little bit safer in the way he used possession, keep the pressure on, rather than be the one who's constantly trying to make things happen. And in the end, he kind of does that job really, because I think some of his play around the box in the second half as Liverpool dominated was actually quite good. So yeah, not a brilliant performance by any means, but not a poor one either, so not too critical of that one. Harvey Elliott on the other wing, he starts. I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for Elliott, because I think, you know, first half against Arsenal, Liverpool were poor and he's in that right wing position. First half here against Fulham, Liverpool not great either, and he's in that right wing position. And I think I'd like to see him when Liverpool are playing well play in that position, because I think it's not because of him that Liverpool are playing poorly. I think that in the end is making him play poorly a little bit, because I think, you know, we saw against West Ham that he can play that position, even if he does it very differently to Mo Salah. He is capable of playing that right wing position, but it works obviously a lot better when you've got a midfield that's functioning behind you, and Liverpool are dominating a bit more and winning ground duels and being able to fire the ball up to their attackers a little bit quicker. So didn't really quite work for him, despite the fact he ends up with 62 touches, so had opportunities to be influential. I think one moment I want to mention from him actually in the first half is a little dink in behind to Bradley, which was brilliant, and I think if it was maybe Trent, he would have got on the end of that and made something of it. So, you know, I don't want to be too harsh on him, but maybe not his night. And the fact that Liverpool looks so much better after him and Gravenberch goes off obviously doesn't really go in his favour, but it's just one of those games, and those things can happen, can't they? Now, I finished off the starting 11 with Diogo Jota, and I thought he constantly looked like Liverpool's biggest threat, really, always the likeliest to score or make something happen. His dribbling was great, he's getting shots off, 4 shots he ends up with, and he has a massive role to play in the equaliser as well. His desire, you know, the ball seems to be constantly getting away from him in a moment where he gets the ball just in midfield, but his desire to chase it and keep tackling and keep trying, he eventually bobbles through with the ball, and then he passes it over to Nunez, who gives to Jones, who gets the shot off, and that's massive. I just think that sums Jota's performance up really. He always looked like he was going to make something happen. I've said before, I think he's Liverpool's best attacker outside of Mo Salah, and he absolutely needs to be in the team as regularly as possible while Salah is away at AFCON. They absolutely need him involved, and I thought he was excellent in a lot of what he did today. He's also an excellent presser as well, which is why it's key to get him in the team. Now, going to finish up with the substitutes, and I thought, as I've said before in this video, I thought they absolutely changed things massively. I'm going to start with Cody Gakpo. Obviously, he comes on and scores a goal now. Creates 2 chances, completely changes things, and I love the way he played out on this right hand side, which is maybe not a natural role for him, but the way he linked up with Conor Bradley really worked. 2 intelligent footballers. He was more willing to give it to Conor Bradley than maybe some of his teammates were throughout the game, and I think the way they linked up, they added so much more threat down that right hand side. And I think Gakpo, he doesn't really get enough credit for me. The fact that when he gets set up for a goal, the crowd is chanting Nunez's name, I feel it's harsh. And I think, I get that people love Nunez, and that's absolutely fair enough because of the player he is, but I think with Gakpo, he's so intelligent. He scores goals, he scores big goals, he makes things happen, he makes Liverpool play better, I think, a lot of the time when he's on the pitch, and I just love the intelligence of his game, and I just wish he maybe got a little bit more credit for that, because he scores a goal today that wins the game for Liverpool after coming on as a sub. As I say, creates 2 chances as well. Another brilliant substitute performance from him. I like him when he starts as well. I just think he's an excellent player, so I want to give him a little bit of praise there, really. And I'm going to finish up now by talking about Darwin Nunez. I mean, I think he gets the assist for the Curtis Jones goal, but I mean, that's a little bit generous maybe, because it gets a huge deflection, but I think he massively changes the game. I think he is probably even more than Gakpo it has a huge influence in changing this in Liverpool's favour, because he gives Fulham a lot to think about with his pacing behind, his ability to hold the ball up, bullying defenders at times. And I mean, he's not on the pitch very long at all, but he takes 4 shots, which is as many as Jota gets when he plays the entirety of the game. So that shows you how dangerous he was. And he's so unlucky not to score one in front of the Kop end, in fact, where the low ball comes in from Conor Bradley, brilliant ball, and he hits it perfectly, almost hits it too well, and Leno so lucky to get a foot on it. And that just sums up Darwin Nunez, really. Is yes, sometimes his technique deserts him and he can be poor, but he's also just remarkably unlucky at times. So other players that would bundle in off the knee, but the fact he hits it so cleanly is the reason that Leno saves it. So unfortunate. But as I said, he did his job today. He comes on, he sets 2 goals up. He definitely deserves the assist for the Gakpo one. Great ball into a dangerous area that Gakpo just has to sweep in. Really brilliant play, and as I say, 4 shots, and very, very unlucky not to get a goal and give Liverpool a 2-goal lead in this tie. But yeah, really enjoyed that performance off the bench of Nunez, and I think arguably the key man really in turning things around in Liverpool's favour after he came on. He gave Fulham so much to think about. Now that's my thoughts on the match as a whole, and my thoughts on the individual performances. As usual, I'm going to ask if what did you think of the match in the comments. Do let me know. Who was your man of the match? What did you think of those subs? Is it a little bit of a worry that Liverpool are so reliant on the bench at the moment, and maybe you think the winter break will do them good, and maybe they can be a little bit more dominant from the start of games after that? As usual, I'm going to ask if you can like this video. It always helps, and of course subscribe. Always great to get more Liverpool fans on board to follow this coverage, and of course there's semi-finals to come, there's more FA Cup, more Premier League title race to come, so it's a really good time and a good season to follow along. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll see you very, very soon.